in your lives have you seen happen on lack of maternity protection? Do you know someone who lost their job once they got pregnant? Do you know the inequality of discrimination against women? Have you experienced it, or someone close to you experienced that? Have you faced the hardships as a mother or as a father in dealing with work and family issues, picking up a sick child, doing something?
You need to enter into a dialogue and show the empathy and the well-being of employees, and then find out where are the ways and means that you can use to make this affordable. And it's a partnership between companies and government. It's a matter of persuading government to prioritize certain things that impact on the well-being of your workers to the advantage of your company.
It's about effective policy influence for employers' organizations. And the area we've chosen to have a discussion is on maternity protection and social security.
The more risky is the work environment for women, the more maternity issues are of a concern for the ILO. So heavy agricultural work, excessive burdens with domestic work, the issue of underemployment and so on. This is the reason why ILO is involved.
The main issues and concerns regarding maternity protection in Ghana are the fact that the burden of maternity protection cost lies on the employer most. Because presently we contribute a whopping 15% to the national SNIT, but nothing at all is done when it comes to support in terms of replacement cost of staff and then the salaries of these mothers who go on maternity.
The main issue which is concerned to employers regarding to maternity protection is that many employers really do prefer hiring men than women, thinking that women are less productive simply because as women we tend to take maternity leave from time to time.
Dismissal of women who are pregnant, and we want it to be cancelled or work on it on communication. Because ladies, when they are pregnant in the informal sector, most of the time they cannot get back at work.
The economies are different, but the maternity challenges are the same. So the issue is, how do you bring the two together, where you have deep rural people employed and people employed in metropolitan industrialized areas, because they have to all benefit equally from the same fund if we are going to create a fund.
Many workers in South Africa don't have adequate health care, and that's the basis of the human resources of the country, the workforce of the country, and that there is need for a more efficient way of providing that health than the one that is very expensive now for workers and increasingly expensive for the companies. So it's not, I don't think that companies or business in getting involved in social policies is necessarily just looking at the needs of the workers. It's a business agenda as well. It's a business agenda. But the way you approach needs to be the business way, of course.
The challenge I see with the example from my country, as much as Social Security provides for maternity benefits, if there is a qualification clause that you must have contributed for a certain period of time to be covered.
These benefits need to be throughout the period where the women are outside work. It's not payment that is going to be done 1 year later, right? Or in a 2 months period when the needs are immediate. And this is extremely important for Social Security. And someone was saying this morning, fine, have a Social Security institution. And I'll tell you, don't have it if it's not working, if it's not functional. There's a reason why maybe there was employer liability at some point in time, because there was no capacity to have a Social Security institution. So I'm saying I am a social security person, but I am a social security person when it's operating, when it's working, when it's effective, when it's functional. Because a benefit that is not delivered in the right time doesn't work, doesn't fulfill its obligation.
So there are no objectives for building the capacities for employers' organizations. It's to increase their effectiveness as the employers' organizations, to manage their structures and practices, to strengthen services in responding to the membership who join employers' organizations. And also, the critical part which brings this workshop into being is also the issue of analyzing the business environment to influence policy at the national, regional, and international levels. This issue about the role of employers, we should not wait until after the fact, until after legislation. When legislation is in process, employers are aware. They should be aware. Because when even countries ratify, they need to now mainstream it into legislation. So then the issue is, where are employers when the legislative process is taking place? Because this is where all the arguments, the advocacy and lobbying arguments of employers should take place to influence the legislation.
I think we do understand the need for social welfare and protection, which is not limited only to maternity benefits, which also covers health and other education and other sectors. But we are here as representatives of employers. I want to know what is the agenda of the employers as far as this issue is concerned.
You need an environment that is better for business, and that environment is one where you should not have uncompetitive behavior, because some companies provide better benefits than others. Because you know that employer liability is not taken seriously by some other companies. Right? So you need a system that is going to be a national system that does not allow these uncompetitive behaviors by the different.
When we look at surveys from employees about their preferences, women and men, but especially women, tell us that they prefer shorter leave periods, which are better paid. So the dream is not to leave the workplace and stay give up their careers and spend the rest of their lives at home, but they value the fact that they want to make a contribution. They have an education, they have committed to their job, so they prefer shorter and better paid leave periods, but then facilities and arrangements to come back to work when basically they feel better and care arrangements have been provided.
In Nigeria, what we try to do is to do a succession planning. Now, when there's a position, there's a job description for that position, and what we try to do is to have a group of people who can do similar job, or there are people that role plays and modeling and when we have a situation where somebody is going on maternity leave, there are other people that can easily fit into that position. There's no point replacing that position. We don't do that.
And if a man and a woman decide one of them should stay home, means that the man said, okay, the lady can go and work and the man want to be home with the child.
On paternity leave, the recommendation on gender equality at the heart of this work, adopted by ILO constituents in 2009, recognized the needs of specific leave policies for both women and men. And our recent research published in our report showed that having a leave for men is not only a matter of gender equality, but it has proved when it's of adequate length, with good pay, specific for men, that has good benefits for child development. Men will participate better in sharing care responsibility, and it's also basically a right that men, a right to parenthood that men.
distinction between work-life balance and work and family balance. Work-life balance, of course, is very, very important in terms of working time and ability for individuals to have time for themselves. However, work-family balance to us is something else, and it's extremely important. Our Convention 156 is workers with family responsibilities. So your time that you negotiate with your employer for yourself, that we hope you can do if whenever you need to play your tennis game or whatever you need to do. But your work-family responsibilities is also an enterprise and a social responsibility. That's a bit different. So if you have young children, if you have older parents and there are issues, you're expected to manage that time on a daily basis quite well.
I think the whole thing about policy advocacy and getting the business environment competitive and conducive is where your voice can make the difference. What can be changed? What legislation can be changed? What regulation can be changed? How can you get the best out of the environment? That is the employer's preoccupation. How do we get enterprises to develop and grow, and as a result of that create employment and create a standard of living which will also develop the country and go to be, for the well-being of the whole country?
Interestingly, you see that maternity is actually one of the benefits that is mostly more appealing to people in the informal economy, right? And if you have a social security institution with pensions and so on, these are not benefits that the informal economy value today. But if you have a maternity benefit, yes, the informal economy can understand that benefit because it's an immediate concern. Most women cannot afford to forfeit their income during maternity or absence from work. They need the continuation of their income. Right? And often we think of women as in the employee situation, that they forfeit income because they're not. But even in the informal economy, even in self-employed, the productivity of women decreases, so they don't get, they don't go to the market as often. If the productivity decreases, the income for the informal economy decreases, right? And in the agriculture, the strength is not there. So this is also important for women, whatever type of work they're doing, okay? So there's need to take time off, gainful work for security of the pregnancy without fear of losing one's job.
Tanzania, at least we have 12 weeks, and then we have 2 hours of breastfeeding after the mothers come back. So in other countries, and you also get your salary as usual for the 3 months.
In South African maternity protection legislation is quite a sophisticated system. We have our basic conditions of employment. Obviously, we have collective agreements that are more favorable than basic conditions, but within basic conditions, we have 17 weeks of maternity leave.
The key take-home message on this occasion is that maternity protection should be a shared responsibility. And when I go back home, that's exactly the message that we're going to pass on, and we're going to try as much as possible to push so that the social security scheme that will take care of maternity protection is implemented.
My key take-home message is, let's sit down, assess the situation as it is at the moment, find sustainable solutions that are workable for business, for workers, for the government, and in so doing, we then look at the overall picture of our economy in Malawi. So when I go home, this is what I'll be advocating for.
There's a need for us to move the standard to the level that ILO is expecting us to, and it's also very interesting to find out that some countries are already there. So it's something that is possible, it's not impossible. and then the cost is not as much as we were expecting because we already have a scheme on ground. But all we need to do now is to put the maternity benefit into our scheme. We already have 10% being a contribution from the employer and 8% from the employee. So that's 18%. Some of the countries are not even doing as well as Nigeria is doing, and so there are lots of perspectives that we can move up and then be in the standard of ILO standard.
In the SADC region, we really at the forefront of maternity protection, but also to obtain the buy-in from employers and to make them realize that maternity protection is something that employers need to address. The reason for that, right, is to preempt possible costs in the future, and by putting in place certain measures, we can increase productivity, increase profitability, and in the long run create jobs.
Maternity protection is a national obligation, number one, and that it is affordable. And the fact that Zimbabwe already has a national social security authority, I believe we are already one step ahead. The process now left is for the different stakeholders to come together and put up a better model for Zimbabwe.